simple hack to help you determine on if you should charge the tenant for these fees for any property damage or eat the cost yourself. As an investor, it gets pretty tricky, especially when operating in the midterm rental space, which is just another terminology for saying that you provide furnished accommodations and you're providing stays that are typically 30 days or more. And therefore, when something does break down, when a tenant potentially has damage, is it truly damage or does it fall underneath another category such as maintenance? How can I even tell the difference? Well, here's a simple hack, right? The way to think about it is you have property, the actual physical property, and then you have the content within the property, such as furniture. When we value a home, we value the property without the goods and furniture. However, you spend good money on that furniture, and therefore, if something happens to it where it's negligence, you should get compensated for it. But where do you draw that line between the two, on which is which? Well, here are the two hacks, right? Let's put it into two buckets: property and what I'm calling the property damage / accident, right? That's one bucket. And then the other bucket is maintenance. Now, let's start with maintenance because I think that's probably the most straightforward one, right? Maintenance, what falls under maintenance, usually you would cover, right? Because you're taking care of the property, it's the cost of doing business, but to a certain extent. So as a matter of fact, if a doorknob is getting loose, that's a wear and tear column, right? And that falls under that maintenance column because as you open a doorknob, over time it may get loose, therefore it needs to get tight. Anything where the hinges are getting a little bit loose or the door is dragging, etc., that's not on the tenant. Although the tenant is using that door, there's no malintent and it's a wear and tear. If you're currently getting value from watching this video, you'll want to make sure you take a second and click below to grab the midterm rental insurance blueprint to help accelerate your process in being able to land these midterm rental insurance contracts with respect to your marketplace. Make sure you click the button below and grab it and continue on with the gems in this video. Now, for other things, which is this one, I'll get a little bit trickier here. When we talk about paint peeling, etc., that's not the tenant's law, right? That's maintenance, right? And as you know, whether it's after every year or every 2 years or whatever your cadence is, you definitely want to make sure you factor in that maintenance and you're not pinpointing it as a guest or it's going to come back to bite you. No one's going to like that. As a matter of fact, as a best practice, I like to have a move out fee. I like to have to set the expectation that, hey, by the way, when you move in, we do a full paint job or whatever the case might be, and we're going to do the same for the person moving out. So this is your move-in fee. This is us getting it on board. You need silverware, etc. Remember, we're dealing with furnished accommodations. We want to make sure that we factor in a fee up front to factor in either for the last one or for the one that they're going to be staying in. It's easier to make that call for the current stay that they're staying in because we're letting them know that we're going to refresh this, and that's actually why we charge this move-in / move-out fee. All right, so now if you think of maintenance, it could be things like, you know, paint peeling, like a couch, like a chair. If people sit on those, you know, if a chair leg breaks or gets damaged, if there's any evidence of activity as recklessness, that's one thing, but otherwise that's typically wear and tear, right? No one's gonna go ahead and try to break a chair that they won't be able to sit on during their stay, right? Beds, same thing, that's wear and tear. If bed breaks, etc., people use beds and they have fun with it, right? But you gotta make sure you have strong commercial grade furniture that's going to be able to withstand heavier individuals or people who are getting active. Let's be honest, we're all grown now, and so you want to make sure that that's a maintenance cost, right? Unless you have evidence, again, which I don't know how you would find the evidence that someone was jumping up and down, right? Kids, and they broke the bed, right? But that's highly unlikely. That's a wear and tear cost. Now, property damage, I'm thinking this is more of the content within the property. So there's two types, right? So property damage, let's talk about the actual property itself. Damage the wall, damage the drywall, scuffs on the walls, damage the floor, break ceiling fan, break a light. Even if it's an accident, that's still property damage and it needs to be accounted for them to pay, have it come out of their security. That's best practice for sure. Again, even if it's an accident, one of the mirrors gets chipped, gets cracked, you know, one of the glass doors gets punctured, that buys something, scuffs on the side, dents in the walls, that stuff, to me, for property management wise, for the property damage, that is property damage, and it needs to be accounted for, even if it's an accident. Even if someone bumped the wall while they're moving things in, yeah, that needs to be accounted for, and that's why you should also conduct walkthroughs before someone moves in and after, right? That way you can actually, call out the items. And last but not least, I do have another video that shows it's so important when you do have a temporary housing accommodation, 30-day stay or more, midterm rental stay, aka they're all the same. You want to make sure that you have monthly cleaning fee. You can check out my other video on the 4 fees you're not charging to increase your profit. It's one of them is certainly your cleaning fees. Monthly cleaning fee gives you access to then be able to prevent these things and capture these damages on the front end before it gets to the end of the lease, where it could be argued and going back and forth. I think it's best to capture it in real time, so we understand already what we're either going to charge down the road or that we're going to fix it, but it's going to come out of your security. Okay, very important. And now when we think of content within the property, right, we talked about the property already, property damage, but now there's the content within the property that are not the large items, right? So not the beds, not the couches, not the chairs. When we think of little things like a broken mug, a broken coffee maker, those are things are still going to be able to charge the tenant because it is property damage. Again, if a remote stops working, you fix that. But I'm talking about more like these things that's still measurable, right? Like you broke something within the home that is not a large, high utilized furniture like a couch, a desk, etc. Those need to be accounted for. And so that's the way I would look at it. 2 buckets. One is maintenance, wear and tear on big items, beds, chairs, seats, etc. That's a maintenance cost. That's a wear and tear cost. That's a door. That's anything that's maintenance, right? Anything property related is also maintenance. Floors, you have paint peeling and all that stuff, etc. Great. If it's physical damage that you can see was not there before based on an impact, something was dropped, something was punctured a wall, then that is no longer a maintenance cost. It then falls into the bucket of property damage, especially when you think of the structure of the entire property. Anything like a window glass being broken, a mirror being cracked, a fan being broken, a light pendant being broken, anything that needs to be charged to the tenant because that is property damage and it's very obvious. And then last but not least, the content within the property that are not the large commercial items, but that doesn't have high use as well, need to be accounted for. Missing silverware, broken mugs, broken coffee maker, anything of that nature is going to fall underneath for the tenant to pay. All right, so these are the 2 rules of thumbs. If you think of things in that bucket, right, in those sub buckets we just spoke about, it will help you determine who you should actually be charging and when and how and when you should and what is kind of in the gray area. That should really help you get very, very clear on what the fees fall underneath, whether the tenant should be paying for it and you'll take it out of their security automatically, so you're not asking for a separate invoice. Should the damages exceed their security deposit, then therefore have a clause in your contract that say they would pay the difference, the delta that's remaining from the security and excess. And then for anything that's wear and tear, do your due diligence, take care of the property. It's your job as a furnished accommodation provider, operator, homeowner, landlord that is there to serve. At the end of the day, you are still in the hospitality business. You not nitpick. It's not going to reflect well. You will not last in the business because people will speak and you'll be known as the landlords that nitpick. Okay, so make sure you take care of your tenants. Make sure you also take care of your bottom line. It's important. We're still in the business of providing great furnished accommodations, but we're still a for-profit business as well. You want to make sure that you bring that point home. If you enjoyed watching this video, make sure you watch the 4 fees you're not charging to increase your profitability in mid-term rentals.